Alright, so what we're doing today is we are doing a rear brake job on this 2011 Toyota Sienna, and we are going to replace the pads and the rotors. I bought these AC Delco rotors on Amazon. I think they were like $23 each. I know the they may have been a little bit more than that. The two rotors and a set of Wagner thermoquiet, which is when I did the front brakes, I put Wagner thermoquiets on it. Seem to be good pads. These are ceramic. Put these on, put these on the front with new rotors. I don't know, a year or so ago, and because we had a little, well, it needed a brake job. Plus the it had a little bit of a shimmy in it. You know, the rotors were warped. It's still got just a tad bit in the pedal you can feel, and it did that right after the brake job. So I think that's the rear rotors are just slightly warped. So went ahead. You know, you can't even, for the price of these, you really can't even get them turned. You know, and when you get them turned, the problem is they make them thinner, so they warp even easier. So unless the rotors are extremely expensive, I don't even get them turned anymore. I just replace them. If they're in good shape, you know, I would put pads on it, but since these seem to be warped, we're going to put new rotors on. So what you need to get this job done, I've got it jacked up. I've got stands under it. This one's got a trailer hitch, so I just jacked up its trailer hitch and put stands under it there. Just because it was easy. 22 millimeter to get the wheels off, and then we're going to take the caliper off. You could do this without I think you can do this without taking the caliper off the caliper bracket if you wanted to. Yeah, you might not be able to replace these. New pads came with these little these things, but I do want to grease this here with some brake grease stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out just to make sure it doesn't seize here. So this is a 14 millimeter. You'll take this bolt out, and of course the one right here. So take those two 14 millimeters out, and the caliper will come off. So you're going to just set it out of the way. Don't let it hang by the brake line. Then once that's off, we can undo these 17 millimeter bolts. There's two of them, right there and right there, and that's the caliper bracket. If you're just doing pads, you wouldn't have to take the caliper bracket off, but to get the rotor off, you can see this bracket wraps around the rotor. We're going to have to take the caliper bracket off. So we'll take the caliper off with the 14 millimeter bolts, and then the caliper bracket with the 17 millimeter, and then we'll be able to get the rotor off. This looks like it feels like a little rubber plug. That's probably what they've got in there just to kind of help hold the rotor on, you know, when you pull the wheels off and stuff. So we'll have to take that off, and then it may take a little bit of beating with a rubber hammer to get this thing freed up, because it's probably a little bit seized right here. Now the rotors I bought, these are not coated rotors. You can see they are bare metal right here. The coated ones were more expensive. Coated ones would be coated, it looks like paint, but it's probably something a little bit tougher, maybe powder coat. That's any spot where the pads do not ride is coated. I did not get those. You can see these are painted. They were like 60 bucks, and these were like 20 something. So if you're up in the northern climates where you get a lot of rust, you know, it would be worth it, but down here in the south, these are just fine. So that's why I went with that with the extra cost. I don't know what I did on the front, to be honest. I don't remember what kind of rotors I put on it. You can tell they might be coated. I don't know. That's those Wagner thermoquiets up here, and they're wearing on the rotor just fine. So let's get busy. I'll set up the time lapse and get to work. All right, everything is disassembled. Now we just need to reassemble. These are the emergency brake shoes. So just take a look at them, make sure they're in good shape. These look great. They look like brand new. No issues here. We'll go ahead and put the new rotor on. As you saw, I've just put some penetrating oil along that where it was on the hub, just to help it slide off and break loose. And I just hit it with the big rubber mallet, and it popped off. Now, if for some reason it is seized on there, it does have these two holes here. These are threaded, so you can put bolts in here and thread them in. I'm sure they're metric, and use those to push the rotor off. It'll push up against this hub. See, just make sure when you, I don't know how this how the orientation is on this, but just make sure when you put this thing on here that these holes line up with solid spots on here, and make sure they're not in these holes. Now this hole here must be a hole to adjust the emergency brake. You can see right here, a little auto adjuster. So that's where you could get in there and back off or tighten up the emergency brake. We're going to need that plug on the new rotor. It didn't come with one. So, all right. So let's set up time lapse again, and we're going to start putting this thing back together. Now, you do want to hit the new rotor with some brake cleaner, because they do have like kind of like an oily coating on them from the factory. So just do that so that doesn't go on your brake pads, and don't forget to do it on the inside too, where the emergency brake shoes ride. It started raining on me, so I moved into the shop with this caliper bracket. One thing I wanted to show y'all, I said I wanted to go ahead and take the caliper off so I could check these pins. You can push the little rubber boot off. That's what I've done on both of them. This one here, I could not push in and out by hand. I could turn it with the wrench, and I kept turning it and I got it to come out, but you can see it was starting to seize up in there, and that's why you want to take these out and put some Never Seize, or I'm going to use Never Seize, but you can also get that brake grease stuff in the little packets, but I don't think I have any of that, so I'm going to put some Never Seize on it. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pads and set them in here. I've got a can of spray stuff that's supposed to help keep them from squealing, and so we're going to spray the back of the brake pads with that stuff. Not the friction material side, the metal backing side. So I'm going to clean these up. This one's in good shape. I'm going to just put some Never Seize on that one. But this one over here, I'm going to take to the wire wheel and clean that up, and then put some Never Seize on it. Alright, since this thing was almost seized up in there, once I cleaned it up on the wire wheel, I've got some Never Seize on it now, just a little bit, but you can see some pitting. I don't know if you can see it there. Just I can wipe this Never Seize out. Put a thicker coat on it anyway. See that pitting on there. So we want to clean up the caliper bracket as well. And so what I've done is I took a piece of all thread that I just had laying around, and I wrapped some sandpaper around it, sprayed some PB Blaster down in the hole, and I'm just doing this just in and out to clean it up. And then we'll take this And we've got a good slide now. So I'm going to take some PB Blaster and just spray in there. And we're using that to kind of just flush it out. Get that nasty stuff out of there. I'll take my air blower and now blow that out, and then I can put a good coat of Never Sees on here, put the little rubber boot back on. It just pulls out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and slip that back on there. Well, I can't do it one-handed, but it just slips in there. It looks to me like that rubber boot wasn't, if you look, see how that is? I think it was partially off, and it probably let water come in around there, so that's probably why. So let's get this done. I call them squealers. I don't know if that's the right name for it. They don't come on the pads. You actually have to put them on the pads, and you can see they've got these little indentions where they go. I've already popped this one on, and we'll go ahead and just pop this one on. So what this does is, as the brake pad wears, and you can see this one wore down, and that little squealer started rubbing on the rotor, and it makes it a squeaking noise, and that's when you know your pads are about gone. You can see this one has just a hair left. Not much left at all, and it had just started getting into it. This one, which has, well, it might not have been rubbing on that one. This one's even worse. You can see, it was getting into that one. But we had just a hair left of this pad, and it was rubbing. See, it was even getting it right there. You can see where it's shiny right there, where it was rubbing. So, like I said, these just pop on here. Pretty easy to get on here, just like that. Well, it got rained out yesterday, but I did kind of get this side wrapped up, except for putting the wheel on. You can see it just stopped raining today, but we're getting back on this. I still got the other side to do, but I'm just going to try to knock it out real quick before it starts raining again. You can see how quickly, after you use that brake cleaner and spray off that oil they put on it, how quickly it rusts up, because it's already rusted. But that won't hurt it. As soon as we step on the brakes, it'll clear all that off. But that is it. We are done. Just got to put the wheel back on. I'm going to go do the other side, but I'm not going to film that. Same process. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.